Yo, what's up, guys? The front office, they're moving big time behind the scenes, and we've already got a situation on offense that's keeping everyone up at night because the return of a key piece has turned into one of those mysteries nobody can really solve. And while that's messing with this week's prep, we just got some physical updates that totally changed the locker room vibe, leaving fans scrambling to figure out who's actually ready for the next game. Right in the middle of all this drama, some hot talk popped up about reinforcing the trenches. And to top it all off, an unexpected image just rocked the whole fan base. Hold on tight because something huge is coming your way. But hey, before we dive into this whole thing, smash that subscribe button right now because it helps this channel out so much and keeps this fan talk going every single day. Drop a like to spread this news to all the Chargers fans who are always rolling through here. And stick with me, man, because I'm going to keep you updated on everything that matters with this team that we live and breathe for. So just check out what's going on with Hampton because this whole mess has become one of those chapters that has the fan base glued to the screen trying to guess the next move. The dude has been out since week 5 when that ankle sprain just wrecked everything and forced the team to slap him on injured reserve. Since then, it's been 5 games without him, 5 weeks where the offense had to totally reinvent routes, rhythm, and patience to make up for the lack of physical presence he brings on initial contact. The win against the Steelers helped stop the bleeding, sure, but everybody knows his presence completely changes how this offense operates. So when the week arrives that he's eligible to come back, the question becomes a mantra. Is this the week? But honestly, the signs are just not pointing that way. The first clue came on Wednesday when the team straight up didn't open his return window. That one detail alone basically kills any chance of him showing up against Jacksonville. Then you couple that with what Harbaugh said earlier this week, no firmness, no indication of progress. And the scenario gets even colder. The expectation was that if there was any real shot, the designation would drop on Wednesday. It didn't. And that speaks volumes. To cap it off, we got that info from Popper saying Harbaugh believes the most likely scenario is holding Hampton until after the week 12 by come on, man. When a reporter of that caliber says something like that, it's usually not a guess. It's solid internal direction. Bottom line, the projection is pointing toward week 13. But hold up, because it's not all silence or bad news. In the middle of this back and forth anticipation, some signals popped up that have the fans feeling way more optimistic. Popper reported that Hampton was seen working on the side of the field, doing light movements, stuff he hadn't done since the day of the injury. That is a major milestone because it means he's testing weight bearing, light acceleration, and change of direction in a controlled environment. And here's another detail that's big. He took off the walking boot. It might sound small, but that's one of those moves the medical staff only clears when the ankle is responding the right way. It doesn't guarantee an immediate return, of course, but it shows the progress is real. Dude, that just injects hope into anyone. And when you put it all on the scale, the panorama becomes crystal clear. Week 11 is practically off the radar. Week 12 is out because it's the bye. Week 13 turns into the most sensible target. And honestly, it makes total sense. A player who depends so much on foundational strength needs to come back with safety, rhythm, and confidence, not just because the offense needs him, but because forcing it now could cost the rest of the season. And for an offense struggling to maintain consistency on third down, getting Hampton back with full explosion is worth way more than rushing him back when he's not 100%. So as frustrating as it is to wait, the reward could be way bigger. But stick around, because what comes after this story is going to mess with your head even more, especially when you hear who's back at practice and the fire that created in the locker room. Now, hold this, because the physical updates this week completely changed the mood of the fan base, and it all started on that ridiculous play against the Steelers when Herbig fell right into Herbert's legs with one of those hip drop tackles that make anyone just freeze up in their seat. For a few seconds, it felt like the entire stadium stopped breathing. Herbert stayed down, feeling it, and then comes that flood of thoughts only a fan knows. Welp, we're screwed. Only he got up, didn't miss a snap, and walked off with his ankles taped up, a total mix of relief and worry. And obviously, the week started with everyone wanting to know if it was just a scare or if there was something serious hiding in there. The answer came fast. On Monday, Harbaugh showed up at the presser and dropped that dry line, almost just throwing it out there, saying Herbert continues to be a monster. Didn't explain anything more than that, didn't go into detail, didn't release a diagnosis. But sometimes the way he talks says more than the phrase itself. And then on Wednesday came the confirmation that really changes the team's vibration. Herbert is going to practice. You kidding me? And when the guy who carries the offensive identity steps onto the field after a scare like that, you feel the difference immediately. It feels like the whole team breathes together, but that wasn't all. In the middle of that tense game, Gadsden limped off after a hard hit, and the fans immediately imagined 1,000 scenarios. He'd been growing in the scheme, finding space, becoming an important safety valve, so the concern was real. But they later found out it was just a thigh contusion, nothing major, and then came the good news. He's also practicing. That alone would be enough to lift the week, but there was more. Still and Hart, who had been dealing with their own pain and limitations, were also cleared for practice. 3 key players returning on the same day is practically poetry for a team that has suffered so much with injuries this season. And there's another point that few people consider, but that makes all the difference. The schedule worked in our favor. After the game against Jacksonville, the Week 12 bye hits. That means any player who's 80%, 85% can be used sparingly, earn extra recovery time, and come back even better after the break. It's like this week is a perfect springboard to reorganize the roster, distribute the load, and make sure no one is forced beyond their limit. And honestly, seeing Herbert practicing so early after that impact to his legs is the kind of thing that infects the whole locker room. It's silent leadership. It's a direct message without needing to open your mouth. Now, let me tell you something. This set of good news could be the push the team needed before this critical stretch. It doesn't solve every problem. It doesn't erase the mountain of injuries this year delivered, but it gives them morale, it gives them structure, and it brings back that feeling that the team still has fuel to truly fight for a playoff spot. Comment below what you think of these returns. Do you believe this turns into real fuel for the next game? I want to know your fan perspective. But what came after this is going to mess with the back end even more, and it involves a name that could change the structure of the entire line. And that's when everything turned upside down. Because in the middle of this wave of physical updates, a rumor started circulating that's gaining more and more strength. The real possibility of bringing in Shaq Mason to reinforce the offensive line. And look, this isn't just some loose talk that pops up in an empty week. No way. This name surfaced precisely at a moment when the urgency in the trenches is at its limit, because the offense has been reinventing itself week after week, dealing with a different combination, forced substitutions, and that feeling that someone is missing, someone capable of stabilizing the interior of the line with authority. Mason, at 32, with experience to spare, brings exactly that kind of presence. The impact would be immediate. He's the kind of player who doesn't need a long adaptation, doesn't depend on an exotic scheme, doesn't require a transformation. He's plug and play. He knows how to play physical offense, knows how to run power, duo, inside gap, everything Roman likes when he wants to go head to head and establish a real run game. And when you put someone like that on the interior of the line, you change blitz reads, you change protection angles, and you give Herbert something he's been desperately needing, a clean pocket up the middle. And that, my friend, alters the operation of the entire offense. The running game starts to flow with more consistency, play action gains credibility, and even the heavier calls unlock with different confidence. On the opinion side, I'll tell you straight up, this makes total sense. The team is at the point in the season where there's no magic solution, but there is a pragmatic one. And Mason is exactly that, a reinforcement that delivers stability, delivers discipline, and delivers the kind of playing style that perfectly aligns with the identity Harbaugh has been trying to establish since March. He's not a gamble. He's not an unknown. He's not a player you need to watch for weeks to see if he fits. He already fits. It's pure experience, proven technique, and a mentality that speaks to what the locker room needs. Sure, there's the financial debate, because a veteran of that caliber always brings up cost-benefit discussion. But honestly, when the need is as evident as it is now, this is the kind of move that's worth considering, and few people realize how this arrival would influence the rest of the line. With a firmer interior, the tackles can breathe. The opposing defense loses the chance to exploit late overloads. That internal pressure that's been killing drives at the worst moments. Communication improves, the system becomes more cohesive, and the errors decrease. That translates into rhythm. and rhythm is exactly what the offense has been struggling to find since the beginning of the year. Now, the part that's most striking is the timing. It's no coincidence this name is gaining traction right now. The final stretch is coming. Every game matters. Every adjustment is huge. And the AFC West doesn't forgive a slip-up. The team needs to fortify itself in the trenches, and this could be the piece that pushes the unit to a safer level. Drop your opinion down there. Do you think Mason fits as an immediate solution? I want to understand how you see this move, because what's coming now has hit the entire fan base in a way no one ever imagined. Check this out, because this was one of the most unexpected scenes of the year and left the entire fan base unsure whether to celebrate or just stare at the screen, trying to understand in the middle of this crazy season with a dismantled offensive line, weekly patching, and that whole saga that started back in training camp when Slater tore his patellar tendon and lost the whole year. Nobody expected to see the guy this early in any kind of public record. Since August, no video, no photo, no appearance on the field, nothing. The silence was total. Fans had even stopped waiting for an update, and then out of nowhere, in a completely unpretentious victory video, there he was, walking in the hallway back to the locker room, right in the middle of the guys, like it was just another normal day. The reaction was instant. The internet exploded. People were pausing the video 1,000 times, trying to see if his step was firm, if he was limping, if the movement was natural, if it was really him, or if they'd seen wrong and he was firm. He walks casually behind Johnston and Pipkins with a loose posture, nothing to indicate pain or difficulty. Man, after an injury as devastating as that, seeing Slater walking like that is almost a visual miracle. Even knowing he won't be back in 2025, just the fact of seeing him back in the team environment changes everything. It's like the locker room gets a silent reminder that the process is working, that the recovery is progressing, that his leadership is still there. And the emotional impact of that is gigantic. It doesn't change the depth chart. It doesn't interfere with the week's game. It doesn't alter anyone's rotation, but it hits the fans' heart and especially the spirit of the group. A player looks at a teammate like that who suffered one of the worst possible injuries, walking back into the fold, and feels something that numbers can't measure. It's pure morale. It's energy. It's a symbol of resilience. These details, as small as they seem, make a real difference in the final stretch. And there's one more thing. This was not an accident. The Chargers media team is way too detail-oriented to let something like that slip unintentionally. They knew exactly what they were doing by putting Slater in the video's frame. It was intentional. It was a message. It was a, he's good, guys, let's stay strong. Even though it was a super short clip, the emotional reach was bigger than a lot of official press releases. Now, the detail almost nobody catches is the indirect effect of this kind of image. When a leader of Slater's caliber reappears at a critical moment in the season, even without being able to play, he reinforces that sense of unity. The offensive line, which has suffered like few units in the league this year, sees one of its pillars walking and breathes a little easier. It's symbolic, but it messes with the head of the guys who are fighting every snap to keep the team competitive. Sometimes that's the kind of energy that holds a group together. Comment below. What was your reaction when you saw that video? I swear I had to rewind it a few times to believe what I was seeing. And now, after all this, we can wrap up with a pretty clear vision of where this team is trying to get to. Look, after all this, you can feel that the Chargers are entering a decisive phase. We've got an important piece closing in on a return, key names getting back to practice, a real possibility of heavy reinforcement for the trenches, and then that giant sign of hope with Slater walking in the team environment again. All this together creates a feeling that the group is starting to align its energy, health, and identity to make a run in the final stretch. Comment below. This space belongs to everyone who lives the Chargers life. I'll catch you in the next video.